watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new season of On the Beat on Germantown Municipal Television. I'm your host, Rodney Bright, Deputy Chief of the Germantown Police Department. On this show, we will provide our viewers with a behind-the-scenes look at policing in Germantown and spotlight the work done by the members of our department to keep Germantown one of the safest cities in Tennessee. We will also speak with some of our various community partners in order to educate our viewers about public safety issues in Germantown. Today, I'm glad to welcome Ashley Brasfield, Assistant Principal at Farmington Elementary, and Germantown Police Captain Nick Godwin, to the show to talk about safety-related training that the Police Department presented to GMSD school staff prior to the start of this school year. Later, we will go outside of the studio and speak with GMSD Superintendent Manuel and Chauncey, GMSD Executive Director for Student Services, about safety initiatives that have been undertaken by the school district to ensure a safe learning environment for GMSD students and staff. Finally, in our Employee Spotlight segment, we will speak with Germantown Police Officer Katie Rothenberger about some recent recognition she has received. But first, I'm pleased to welcome Farmington Assistant Principal Ashley Brasfield and Captain Nick Godwin to the show. First of all, just welcome to you both. It's a brand new school year and brand new season of our show. So thanks for joining us. Just really thought we'd have a focus on this first show back about safety and school safety issues. And I know we've done some stuff over the summer to present some training to the schools and the school staff. And I know Captain Godwin, you led that. And just, tell us a little bit about that training over the summer and maybe what's led up to that and where we are now.
Absolutely. So this training's been a long time coming. We sat around and thought about what can we do, and we just really knew we were shorting ourselves, not giving the teachers the tools they need and the training they need on what to do if something were to happen. And so we sat down and we designed the course. The way we thought about it was, if God forbid something happened in my child's school and I had 2 hours to prepare the teachers the day before, what would I say to them? What is the most real thing I could give them? And what we came up with was combining our experience with firearms, tactics, ballistics, everything you can think of from a SWAT side, and then also the paramedic side, medical training that, as far as I know, nobody else in the country is doing. What kind of consequence management do the teachers have in the time from when a child gets hurt till we get there? So that's essentially how we came up with our program.
And I know we presented that program to all the GMSD schools and as well as Shelby County and some other learning institutions around us. But just from an administrator's perspective over at Farmington, welcome, and just kind of get your thoughts about the training. First of all, maybe just by introduction to our viewers,
Yes.
Tell us just a little bit about how long you've been at Farmington and maybe what your role there is.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been at Farmington for about combined 6 years. I was assistant principal. I am assistant principal for 4 years, and then I was a teacher there for 3 years prior. So actually a total of 7 now, I guess. So it's been a wonderful experience at Farmington. I love it more than anything. So keeping our kids safe is one of my #1 priorities. I think all of our priorities here at Farmington. And I feel as though, Captain Godwin, by him saying that, he took the approach of looking at it as if this was my own child, I feel like that's exactly what he did. He was able to come into our building and really hit on the key things necessary for teachers to walk away feeling empowered, feeling more knowledgeable about a situation that, God forbid, we never have to encounter. But because of this training and because of the way he approached it, it truly gave our teachers kind of a sense of relief, knowing that there are things that they can do to help keep kids safe. Because at the end of the day, that's all they want. They want to be able to know that they can protect their children in case something like this were to happen.
Yeah, I guess really the reason we have a discussion like this and we do training like this certainly is there have been a number of events nationally over the last few years, some last year. I know from a law enforcement professional's perspective, over time, it's hard to really imagine or digest the need for such a program, and we have to really, work on our mindset. I'd be curious to hear, you know, from your perspective inside of school, you know, what does the training unlock, you know, different thoughts about, you know, safety, you know, at a different level, this kind of training?
Well, this kind of training, you know, nobody wants to ever have to experience the need for this kind of training, but I think it did exactly what it was intended to do. I feel like it gave us more of a sense of security, knowing that there are things, like I said, that we can do to protect our students. There has definitely been an increased sense of urgency, you know, with everything that has happened, you know, across the country in different situations. Nobody ever expects it to be them. So I'd rather for us to all be prepared and know exactly, you know, what we can do to help protect our students and make sure we're doing the right things in order to keep everyone safe.
And just to supplement what she said about, you know, on her end, can you just talk you know, maybe briefly about, certainly this training for the schools is important, but maybe, you know, also what we're doing as a department, you know, for training for our staff. You know, we've been doing similar training for a long time. However, you know, it's kind of, you know, changed direction a little bit, and I think taken on a lot more significance.
It definitely has. So you are correct. We have been doing this training, active shooter training in law enforcement, for over a decade, and I've been involved with it for that time, and it's constantly evolving as we have national events and we learn things and we try to get better. But this training with the schools has been, like I said, such a long time coming, and she's exactly right, and we've had maybe unintended benefits from doing it. One thing we've learned is I go out in public now, and my wife laughs because everywhere I go it'd be a teacher that I've taught somewhere, and we have this relationship, and my SWAT guys have seen the inside of every school in the city multiple times. They know all the staff. They have a good relationship with them, and it's just really something we should have done a long, long time ago.
And I know certainly, you know, our role is almost entirely reactive, you know, if something were to happen, but I think the planning and the preparation certainly is extremely important. Just maybe about this training and maybe just about the events that, you know, we've seen across the country. You know, be curious to hear about, you know, maybe the impact on the school environment, you know, whether the mindset of the staff or the concern of the parents, and what you guys are hearing.
Well, one thing that when you were talking it made me think of is that our teachers now have the perspective of the police. They know exactly what the police are looking for. If, God forbid, the situation were to ever happen, they know what to expect, what's next, what's coming next, what do the police officers need to know if they were to come in, what they're going to be looking for, the goals, and how to, you know, best attack a threat. So therefore, they are now going to be able to help the police as opposed to get in the way or do anything that they shouldn't be doing, because now they know what to expect. And I think knowing those expectations and knowing exactly what's going to happen in a situation like this, it has kind of, like I said, given them more of a sense of relief, in that they can feel empowered to make smart choices and smart decisions if they were to ever encounter this.
Yeah, that's a great insight. And as far as, you know, what we're going to do, maybe moving forward, you know, their plans for, you know, follow-up. I know we did some training in in-service, and I know there's been stuff done at the individual schools as well.
So we, especially on the officer side, we want to keep getting this message out, keep doing this training. The schools are obviously in a season now where they're getting the school year started and they're very busy, but as soon as we get our next chance, we want to be right back in there. And we are going to conferences and we're trying to learn things and get debriefs from these commanders that have been over these scenes, you know, on a national level, from Vegas to Parkland and all these other places, so that the next time we go back to them, we have even more information and more updated things that we've learned from the things going on in our country, because we need to stay on the front end and always be on the offensive of keeping our citizens and keeping our staff prepared in case something were to happen.
I know it's just a few minutes here to talk about it, but, you know, I know there's been a lot of work, a lot of time invested by our department and by the school system and by each school and administration. So, you know, first of all, you know, thank you for that. Thank you for joining us on the show. We'll talk just a little bit about it. And thank you. We hear thank you a lot, but thank you for what you do and your staff and educating our kids and everybody in our school system. It's extremely important. Thank you. It's time to take a short break. When we return, we will go outside the studio and speak with Superintendent Manuel and Mr. Bland about school safety initiatives. Please stay tuned.
Oh, emojis! I thought the conversation just got dumber.
Ugh, internet trolls, just ignore them.
I like you just the way you are.
I believe in you!
She's a hugger. Give her a squeeze.
help up the hand. Ah, there you go. Thanks, mate.
You're killing it, Jane!
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back to On the Beat. I'm Rodney Bright, Deputy Chief of the Germantown Police Department. As we discussed earlier in our segment with Ashley Brasfield from Farmington, school safety certainly has become a priority for the Germantown Police Department and the Germantown Municipal School District. Here to talk to us a little bit further about that from an administration point of view is Superintendent Manuel and Executive Director of Student Services, Chauncey. Gentlemen, first, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
I know that we're early in the new school year and there's a lot of chaos and probably a little stability starting to settle in with the students and all that, but I wanted to go back and just talk a little bit maybe before the start of the school system or the school year and talk about safety. And I know we did some training with you and your staff, and any kind of takeaways that y'all may have about that.
Well, I think for us, when we talk about mindset, we have always had a focus on safety, and we've worked with your department to make sure that we have drills and we have SROs in all of our schools that are trained that help protect our children. But I think the realization for us is, as this becomes more common and the likelihood of a shooting occurring in a school, it's making sure that we focus on that culture change, that mindset that has to happen in our schools. It doesn't matter how good a security system you have, and if all the doors are locked outside, if somebody knocks on a door and a child goes up and opens the door for them, then you've just opened up your school system. So we have to think about the fact that it doesn't matter how affluent your city is or how safe you feel it is, you always have to be ready for an event that could happen here in our schools, and we got to be prepared.
Well, I think that's a great way to describe, just the current environment, looking at recent events, and even for us at our department and law enforcement in general, the last thing that we would think would happen or would be an unsafe place would be our schools. Mm-hmm. So I think you're exactly right. Just the mindset, that we have to adjust to and be prepared, and whether it's that or any other kind of event. So along those lines, our school officers, as you mentioned, that we have in your schools, every summer they go to an annual conference, a national conference, and I know this past summer, Mr. Bland, you got to join them, and
yes, sir.
I know it's that's kind of like walking the walk, I would say, instead of just talking about safety. But you're out there partnering with us and going to the conference, and just like to hear a little bit maybe about your perspective, any takeaways you had from that conference.
Yeah, it's a very productive conference. I think this year they had 29 states represented at the conference. So it's a national conference. They have national speakers coming in. They have superintendents from school systems coming in to share what they do in regards to school safety and student safety. There are breakout sessions. There are sessions where everybody's together and the keynote speaker speaks to everyone. They have vendors, over 100 vendors there providing safety tools, visitor management systems. So it's a very good conference, and I enjoy going every year to hear and to speak to different people.
And I know that, for our department, we consider ourselves kind of a best practice, police department, the city, I think, that has the same philosophy. And I know that carries over to your school system. I think that's a great example to demonstrate that. We go out and we bring things back that we can use here. And I know we talked about a little bit training during the summer, and we talked about that with Ms. Brasfield, but, transition a little bit to other measures that we can do to create a safe environment. I know that we're sitting in the lobby of Houston High School, and
yes,
I know there's some plans as far as what is the school system looking at to enhance safety, not just from a human perspective, but other things.
Well, I think for us, it's about controlling who's in your schools and who has access to your schools. So as you can see, we're here in the lobby of Houston High School, and there are people coming in and out to check out their children, to drop off supplies. It's how do you control those people and make sure that we have the most controlled access. So the challenge we have with Houston High School is that we have 2 buildings. And so in between classes, students are having to travel in between those 2 buildings. So we're taking measures, besides having people staffed at the doors, because we do that, we have staff that are in the hallways. How can we really lock down the building? And so we're looking at tall ornamental fencing that will actually control access, and it becomes one building. So it'll connect the A building to this main building. But then also, when we have visitors that are coming into the building, how can we buzz them in instead of into the lobby? Because we do have a controlled access right now where you have to push a bell and they see you on video and they talk to you about why you're here and then they buzz you in. But once they come in, they're in the lobby and they can have access to students, and we want to bring them directly into our office. So we're actually looking at a front office change. Mr. Blaine talked about some of the things that they saw. I think one of the neatest things you saw was actually a controlled entry. It almost looks like a lockbox. If you think about a mall that people have to enter through before they come into the school system, that you can actually lock people in. I think those are things that would be attractive for not just Houston High School, but also at Houston Mill and at Dogwood to have that controlled access into the school.
Yeah, I know it's a little difficult, you know, when these facilities were built, you know, back when they first came online. You know, this is really not something that was that much of a concern, really. It's just I think that maybe goes to the mindset, I guess. And I know physically, you know, trying to control the access and limit people's movement, you know, inside the facility is a measure. Right. And I also know, because I can speak personally, that I've seen it, the stuff with the technology.
You want to talk about technology? Yes.
I know there's a lot of movement on technology, and you know, things are almost real time now.
So with technology, the technology front, we've upgraded our security camera system. Every administrator, SRO, and you guys have access to see cameras in real time as things happen. We refer to those cameras in the case of an event. We can go back and look at footage. We're installing cell phone boosters, because if you need to get a line out on a cell phone and there's no coverage, that becomes a safety issue. So we've tried to upgrade our cell phone signals in each school by providing those cell phone boosters.
And I think about really the access and really the partnership and communication that we have with y'all, in the fact that if a SWAT team is coming here into the school and there is actually a shooter in a hallway, they can actually pull up cameras and see what is happening in those hallways. That's an eye in the sky. That's real information that's going to help them solve a situation as quickly as possible. So I think that's the type of communication that is really going to be beneficial for us.
You know, those are huge improvements, certainly from our perspective, and gathering that information and be able to look, you know, real time what's going on. That's I know we're just on the leading edge probably of a lot of improvements like that. So as we wrap up with you today, you know, what do you get from the sense from the parents? You know, I know that, you know, you all take the students and their safety and learning extremely serious. I'd be curious to hear, you know, what kind of feedback do you get from the parents?
I think they're scared. I think Parkland, Florida really changed people, and not because we hadn't had school shootings. We had, you know, those have become common. I think the realization is that this can happen here, and it's not going away. We truly have some concerns even around mental health, of how we're being preventive and reaching kids before they get in these situations, or someone decides to hurt other individuals. What are we doing to do that? But also the fact that they want to know that we are working together, city law enforcement and the school system, to do everything possible to keep their kids safe, and that we're trying to think ahead and stay ahead of the curve. I think that's my take. I don't know, Mr. Blaine, what you have? I
think communication is key. I think we've done a lot to revamp our communication process in the event of an emergency, to notify parents in a timely manner. So I think the parents understand what we're going through, and I think they know we have their kids' best interests at heart.
I think you guys did a great job of you know, just kind of scratching the surface on what we're doing, you know, together, and what you're doing to help keep students safe. And it's extremely important, and I want to thank you both for joining us and sharing that. And we look forward to our continued great partnership.
Thank you for having us.
It's time for a short break. When we come back, Officer Katie Rothenberger will join us for our Employee Spotlight segment. We'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back to On the Beat. Our police officers serve and protect our community with great pride and distinction. We would like to introduce our viewers to one of those officers today. Officer Katie Rothenberger has been serving our department since July of 2015. She joins us here today. First of all, welcome to our show as we kick off a new season, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And I know you've been here a few years. Just tell us, by way of introduction, when you started and, a little bit about, your time on the job so far.
I've got hired July 2015, so I've been here a little over 3 years now, and it's been great. I've had a lot of training, and mainly I've just been in patrol, but I've had a lot of different training and stuff like that. I've worked 2 to 10 shifts, so stay rather busy on that.
Well, I know that in today's climate, maybe policing may or may not be something that's interesting to many people, but can you talk a little bit about what drew you into the profession, and just what made you want to be a police officer?
I'd always kind of wanted to be one since I was younger, like in middle school, and so I just kept following through with that. And I went to college for criminal justice, and I interned with the sheriff's department, so that kind of just made me want to do it even more. So then I applied and just became one. It's just something I was always wanted to do since I was little.
Well, I know that you've been serving for a little bit over 3 years, but those 3 years have been filled with some notoriety. I know recently you were awarded the department's Officer of the Year Award, the Chief's Award, and you also received recognition for your work as a CIT officer. Can you speak just a little bit about maybe the CIT Award and what does that mean, CIT, and how does that factor into what you do day in and day out?
CIT stands for Crisis Intervention Team, and it's basically we're dealing with mental consumers or anybody who's having a breakdown or any kind of crisis, and we just go and we talk with them. And I actually went through the training 2 years ago and got certified in CIT. So anytime we have somebody who has a crisis, a CIT officer will usually make the scene and just talk with them and work out whatever problems they may have going on. So I've really enjoyed doing that. I really like doing that. So then I got awarded the CIT Officer of the Year Award, which was I was very honored to get that because I know it's a big award. So.
And I know there was probably some work that led up to that recognition. Has there been, any memorable, CIT-related calls that stand out, to you that may have been difficult to handle? And
yeah, I'd had a lot of CIT calls, but the one that stuck out the most was probably a suicidal subject we had. He was armed with a gun, and he was just having a really bad time, and I got over there and talked with him, and other officers helped me, and we actually ended up talking with him for about 40 minutes in the yard, and we got him to put his weapon down and kind of surrender, and it was probably the biggest learning experience I've had and most memorable one. So.
I recall that incident, and I know it takes a lot of special skills to be a CIT officer for sure, and that's something that we invest heavily in with the department. I know it certainly paid off that day for you and for that person as well. And I know there's been some other recognition. You also have, during your short time with the department, you've also received a medal for life-saving. Can you tell us a little bit about what went behind that award?
Yeah, me and another officer, Stone Cipher, were sitting just on everyday patrol, and we got flagged down by some citizens where a subject he just fell over and stopped breathing and didn't have a pulse. So we went over there, and Officer Stone Cipher called for paramedics, and then I checked him and he wasn't breathing. So I started CPR, and then Captain Whitfield actually was driving by as he saw me doing CPR. So he stopped and pulled over, and he did CPR with me as well until paramedics got there. So, and then they were able to get him back and transport him to the hospital. So it was good experience.
Yeah, I know you've done a lot. You've seen a lot in just 3 years. I'd be curious to hear about maybe takeaways that you have at this point in your career. Just what are some, what have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about policing, and where you are right now?
I really learned that when I first was younger, I really wanted to be a detective, but I knew you had to be a police officer first. But now that I'm a police officer, I don't want to be a detective anymore because I love it so much. And mainly being with the community, and we have a really good community here that supports us and the citizens. So that is a big part in why I love what I do. And so it helps to have people supporting us and everything like that. So.
You know, one thing also I think that's really important to our department, you know, we're very, very fortunate to be able to attract and hire very, very talented people like yourself. And, you know, we don't take that lightly. But after we make that decision, you know, and they go through their basic training, then they come back to us and we give them some additional training. I know that you serve as a field training officer. What is it about that role that you find challenging or maybe worthwhile, you know, and maybe having a mentorship type role with some of our new people?
Yeah, I just became FTO, so it was I thought it would be easier than it was, honestly. It is very challenging because you not only have to worry about keeping yourself and citizens safe, but now you have to worry about teaching someone else and making sure they're safe and making sure that they don't mess anything up. So it was very challenging, but it's very rewarding seeing an officer grow and learning new things and improving and just being a role and helping them become an officer a good officer. So it's very rewarding.
Yeah, I think that certainly is one of the most critical roles, I would say, you know, based on my experience with the department, that the training officer really sets the tone and has an impact, kind of like a coach, you know, and how they end up, you know, developing that officer. I know policing can be stressful. You've mentioned a few memorable calls that you've handled. What does Katie do to relieve stress, or what do you like to do maybe away from the job?
Well, I used to coach competitive cheerleading and gymnastics, so sometimes I'll still go help out with the cheer team, and my friend, she coaches the team, so sometimes I'll help her. I just bought a house, so I'm staying busy working on that, and I like to go out with friends and work out and just stay busy, really.
Well, on behalf of the department and our community, you know, I want to say thank you for what you've done in the time that you've been with the department so far. I know you've got a tremendous potential, and we're excited about that. And congratulations for the recognition for the Officer of the Year, the Chiefs Award. That certainly is well deserved and well earned. So thank you for that. Thank you for serving, and thank you for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
That's all the time we have on this edition of On the Beat. Stay tuned to us throughout the year as we spotlight public safety programs and partnerships and bring you interviews with the people who strive to make Germantown a safe place to live, work, and play. If you'd like more information on this show or any other show on Germantown Municipal Television, please visit www.gmtvonline.org. If you have questions about policing in Germantown or topics you would like for us to discuss on the show, please email me at rbright@germantown-tn.gov. We'll see you when On the Beat returns next month.